How to Live Forever by Colin Thompson. In a quiet street of tall trees, there is a library with 1,000 rooms. On the shelves are copies of every book that has ever been written. But one book is missing. 200 years ago, someone hid its record card under the bottom drawer of a filing cabinet, and the book quietly vanished. The book is called How to Live Forever. When the library is closed and the night watchman has fallen asleep in his big armchair, the shelves come to life. Doors and windows appear on the backs of the books, lights come on, and the sound of voices drifts out between the pages. Full-grown trees spring up and chimneys begin to smoke. Staircases and ladders join the shelves into great cities, and in the distance small dogs bark. On a shelf of cookery books beginning with Q in a book called Quinces lived a family named Robinson, a mother, a father, a serious girl called Lucy, and a boy called Peter. Peter was the only person who knew about the missing book. One night his cat Brian chased a mouse into the filing cabinet, and when Peter squeezed in after him he found the card. When he went to get the book there was only a dark, dust-filled gap. Peter decided that no matter what he had to do, he would find the lost book. "If I can find it," he said to Brian, "we will never grow old." Every night for the next 2 years, Peter and Brian searched for the book. On the shelves near the empty space, there were books of age-old medicines and healthy books full of exercises and salads. He walked past rows of books with people in leotards leaping about, eating celery and having their thighs photographed. But it was always the same. When he looked closely, they all had wrinkles round their eyes. They were getting older. They didn't know about the book. "Where's that boy off to every night?" said his mother. "As long as he's not getting into any trouble, it's all right," said his father. Peter travelled from room to room through secret cellars of forbidden books to well-worn shelves of cowboy stories, through silent books of Braille to the street guides of lost cities. And then on a dark shelf below the ceiling in a long-forgotten attic, Peter found 4 old men standing ankle-deep in dust, each balanced on one leg in front of a row of ancient Chinese books. The old men had white hair and deeply lined faces. They surely didn't know about the book. Peter watched them. If it hadn't been for their gentle breathing, the men could have been statues. "Welcome," said the first old man. He put his foot down very slowly so as not to disturb the dust and bowed. "You are just in time for tea," said the second. He too put his foot on the ground and bowed. The third man did the same. The fourth man didn't move, and when Peter looked closer, he saw that he was asleep. "We don't get too many visitors," said the first old man. "You're the first," said the second. Peter followed the old men into a large faded book. It was filled with the scent of spices and ancient memories. Beautiful carpets covered the floors, and red lacquered shelves crammed with 1,000 treasures filled the walls. "You've come for this, haven't you?" said the third man, holding out a small book. Peter took it and read the faded words. "How to Live Forever," or Immortality for Beginners. Peter watched them. If it hadn't been for their gentle breathing, the men could have been statues. "Welcome," said the first old man. He put his foot down very slowly so as not to disturb the dust and bowed. "You are just in time for tea," said the second. He too put his foot on the ground and bowed. The third man did the same. The fourth man didn't move, and when Peter looked closer, he saw that he was asleep. "We don't get too many visitors," said the first old man. "You're the first," said the second. Peter couldn't understand. If these 4 old men had the book, why were they so old? He thought for a moment. "It doesn't work, does it?" he said. "Oh, yes, it works," said one of the men. "Well, why?" began Peter. "Why are we so old?" "Yes. Follow me," said the old man, "and I will show you." Peter couldn't understand. If these 4 old men had the book, why were they so old? He thought for a moment. "It doesn't work, does it?" he said. "Oh, yes, it works," said one of the men. "Well, why?" began Peter. "Why are we so old?" "Yes. Follow me," said the old man, "and I will show you." He led Peter through a door into a Chinese garden. It was the most beautiful place the boy had ever seen. Delicate trees shivered in a soft breeze. Their blossoms fell into pools of clear water filled with silent fish. Chinese quail picked across the earth and bright butterflies flew around his head. Peter just wanted to stand and stare, but the old man was walking off down the path. "Where are we going?" said Peter, running after him. "To see the ancient child," said the old man. Peter followed the old man through the trees into a clearing, and there in a large chair sat the ancient child. He was both young and old, 10 and timeless at the same time. His skin was as smooth as a child's, but it was dull and tired. His eyes were a child's eyes, but they were weary and far away. "This young one has come for the book," said the old man. "You mustn't read it," said the ancient child. "It will drive you mad." "I am the only person," he went on, "who has read it and not lost his mind. I was younger than you when I found it, and I couldn't read it fast enough. Then while my friends grew up, I stayed like this. They grew out of toys and fell in love. They married and had children, and all I could do was sit and watch. Now I am frozen in time. I keep saying that I had everything, but all I had was endless tomorrows. To live forever is not to live at all. That's why I hid the book." "Why didn't you just burn it?" asked Peter. "The book is immortal too," said the ancient child. Peter walked through the garden feeling quite desolate. When he reached the pool, he sat down on the warm earth. All afternoon he watched the goldfish. They too were growing old, but their children were swimming in their shadows. "I won't read it," he said, and went back to the ancient child. "You are wiser than I was," said the ancient child, and led him back to the world. The end.